Good day, book world. Let me start by thanking the Association of Rural and Small Libraries for inviting me to talk about redeeming justice. I am a first-time author and excited to share my story with you and to discuss the book. So, because I didn't want to bore you guys by just simply presenting, I wanted to tell my story through illustrations. So with no further ado, let me begin. Before there was the law office of Jarrett Adams, with offices in New York, Illinois, and Wisconsin, Jarrett Adams was a 17-year-old kid, born and raised on the south side of Chicago. This picture is a picture of me when I was just graduating high school. And someone called my name who was standing in the upper balcony. And it was my mom. And she called my name to turn around for a picture. And little did she know, or little did I know, that in just a matter of days, this picture of me looking up at her as she is capturing the moment of my graduation and the start of my adult life, we had no idea that this picture would turn into this picture. I was 17 years old, just graduating high school, when me and a couple friends decided to go attend a party out in Wisconsin. Wisconsin was the bordering state of Illinois and Chicago, where I'm from. We drove an hour and a half, but before we did so, we used the classic alibi that many of you have used and that kids still use today. I told my parents I was spending the night over my friend's house, and my friends told their parents they were spending the night over my house, and we go to this party. Now, we knew our parents wouldn't allow us to go to this party, an hour and a half away, unattended college party, where there would be plenty of drinking, smoking. So that's why we told our parents that we were going to spend the night over each other's house. We attend a party where, after a consensual encounter, we are falsely accused of a sexual assault. Now, we weren't falsely accused immediately after this party. It was a month later. I had made it home. The party was over with. The summer was winding down, and we were all individually on our ways to college, me and my two friends. I had a card that was in my door, and the card was from robbery homicide. I immediately called down to the police station because I wanted to make sure that I cleared my name from any accusation about a robbery or a homicide. Little did I know, when I would call the police station and inform the officers that I was 17 years old and ask, should I come with an adult? And they would tell me no. I had no idea that I was going down to be interrogated for an accusation of a sexual assault. I make it down to this police station, and I thought that if I just told the truth, it'd all be over with. Well, me telling the truth resulted in me being charged and ultimately wrongfully convicted and sentenced to serve 28 years in prison. I was sentenced in 1999 to serve 28 years in prison for a case that had absolutely no supporting evidence besides the false accusation. And what we didn't know at the time, and what we would learn later on, is that the police withheld the one piece of evidence, and that of a statement from a student that completely absolved us of committing any crime. It was a difficult process. And I wrote as many people as I could. One man that I wrote, his name was Robert Hennick. Robert Hennick was an amazing appellate attorney in the state of Wisconsin. My mother, my parents, we couldn't afford an attorney. So I started to write my own petition to the court. I knew I needed help. So I wrote Rob Hennick and I begged him. I said, would you agree to edit my petition for a nominal fee? Because I can't afford your services. Rob Hennick agreed. He helped me edit my petition. And as a result of that petition being edited, The Wisconsin Innocence Project will go on to take my case. My case was argued all the way up to the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals, where they unanimously agreed to reverse my conviction based on my lawyer's constitutional deficiencies and failure to present my alibi defense. I was locked up in 1998. I didn't get out until 2007. Nearly a decade was lost. There were things that I took for granted when going in prison, and I searched for when I got out, and I did not see. One of those examples is a payphone. I, in 1998, can remember vividly seeing payphones everywhere. When I came home, when I started to see the old neighborhood, when I started to try to put my life back together, it was a constant reminder of the decade that was stolen from me. I did not let this defeat me, so I immediately enrolled in school. I ended up getting my associate's degree, my bachelor's degree, and ultimately, I ended up in this picture. This is a picture of me graduating from Loyola Law School, School of Law, in 2015. And I'm looking again at that same woman as she is screaming at the top of her lungs. That's my baby. My mother continued to stand by me. It was difficult. It was strenuous. And these smiles that you see are earned smiles after me and my mom had made it through what is called our criminal justice system. I remember getting that degree. I remember showing my mom, and I remember her crying. And I wanted to know why she was crying. And she says, baby, I'm not crying because I'm sad. I'm crying because I know you will go on to keep another mother from sitting helplessly while she couldn't help her son fight this criminal justice system. That was all I needed to then go on from law school and do a dual fellowship, clerkship inside the same Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals that reversed my conviction. I went on to go work at the Innocence Project in New York, and I worked alongside this man on one particular case. This man is the director of the Wisconsin Innocence Project, and I'll let him tell the story through this nightly news piece.
Attorney Jarrett Adams wants to right wrongs.
I can shake your hand. They can't keep me from doing that.
In a Wisconsin jail, he meets with his client, whom he believes was wrongfully convicted of rape. He hopes the judge will now free him after 30 years behind bars.
We hope everything will go well and we're able to just see you walk out of here tomorrow.
Jarrett is not your typical defense attorney. In fact, you could say he knows the law from the inside out.
Although I received my diploma from Loyola Law School in Chicago, I started law school in Green Bay Correctional Facility.
Jarrett was wrongfully convicted himself. He was 17 when he was arrested, accused of sexually assaulting a student at the University of Wisconsin, a crime he denied from the start. In these cases, there's always that moment of, this will get cleared up very quickly.
You know, my only encounter with the criminal court system was Law and Order. And that theme music comes on, you don't see guys who are wrongfully convicted go to prison.
But Jarrett did, a 28-year sentence, convicted after his court-appointed attorney chose not to put on a defense, even though there was a witness who could have helped clear him.
When this guy is telling us, look, we know you didn't do it, they haven't proven their case, the best defense is a no defense strategy. We're like, yeah, that sounds good because we don't know any better, right? But in reality, it was a horrible idea.
A cellmate convinced Jarrett to keep fighting. Jarrett spent his days in the prison law library. He wrote letters and finally caught the attention of the Wisconsin Innocence Project. Keith Finley took up his case.
He had done his homework. He knew the case factually better than anybody, and he knew the law. He said, look, the issue we're going to win on is that ineffective assistance of counsel claim. You got to lead with that. You got to argue that.
Jarrett was correct. It was the argument that caused the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals to overturn his conviction. After nearly 10 years in prison, Jarrett was free, reminded, though, by a family photo album of what he'd lost.
I started to just look at the evolution of me as a kid, just, growing up, pre-K, kindergarten, graduation, birthdays. And then I turned the next page and I didn't see another picture of me until I was 26, 27 years old.
Like a piece of your life just was erased.
Just forever gone.
But Jarrett's remarkable and at times ironic journey was just beginning. He went to college, graduated law school, and clerked at the same court that tossed out his conviction. And then last summer was hired as a lawyer by the Innocence Project in New York, the same organization that successfully argued his appeal. What must it be like for you to walk in these doors every day as an attorney?
There is no sweeter joy than to be on this side of the law.
His to-do list, freeing other wrongfully convicted inmates.
This is hopeful, and this is just filed.
Which brings us back to Wisconsin and Jarrett's client, serving time in the same prison Jarrett once did. His name is Richard Baranek.
He's not simply presumed innocent of these crimes. He is innocent.
In June, his conviction was overturned based on new DNA testing. Jarrett's first win as a lawyer.
What's up, man? Where the handcuffs at? You look free.
And completing this improbable circle, Jarrett's co-counsel on the Baranek case was Keith Finley, the lawyer who helped free Jarrett 10 years ago.
It's a storybook tale that you wouldn't believe until you saw it.
And Keith, you're part of the storybook too. I mean, do you just shake your head sometimes to watch the full circle that Jarrett has been on?
It's incredible. I mean, I've been amazed at every step of the journey.
Nothing pays me back more, or my family more, than me walking in the same court, in the same state, where they didn't even look at me when they gave me 28 years. But now they have to acknowledge me as Attorney Adams.
Now that story, it highlights the impressive moments of my life, the journey. But that's not why we're redeeming justice. I didn't write it and mention my accomplishments to impress people. I wrote it to impress upon people the importance of literacy, education, equality, and us making a real effort to save Black and brown boys, and especially our juveniles, from becoming victims of the system. Because I realized I was one of the blessed and fortunate ones. Usually, when the system gets a hold of you, it does not let you go. 1 out of every 5 prisoners in the world is incarcerated in the US, 2.3 million in the US. That is almost 2 times the size of certain countries. In fact, it is of certain countries. You dig a little bit deeper in these numbers, and you look at how children are being pushed into this prison system, right? Look at the numbers. The numbers suggest what is going on. We have 70% of certain states' prison systems are filled with former foster care and youth facility type of kids. We're missing out on the talent of us that is us, because we can't look at each other as us for whatever reason. There's a predominant rate of young Black kids being incarcerated. 1 in 4 Black males will go through corrections in their lifetime. 1 in 4. 40% of the population is made up of African-American men and increasingly women. And we spend $75 billion a year on incarceration at a tune of $100,000 per prisoner. Yet we spend $65 billion on college and only $10,000 per student. We're not going to lock our way out of criminal justice reform or lock our way up into safety. The only way we get to safety is through diversity, equality, and education. I want to tell you a story that someone told me after I was done giving a presentation like this. This is a story about 4 people named everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody. There was an important job to be done, and everybody was sure that somebody would do it. Anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got angry about that because it was everybody's job. Everybody thought anybody could do it, but nobody realized that everybody wouldn't do it. And it ended up that everybody blamed somebody when nobody did what anybody could have. And what we're talking about is social justice issues in our society. We're talking about the issues that are at the heart of the community and police relations. We're talking about the same issue we've talked about before: race, equality. Do not wait for someone to do what you have the power to do. And what you have the power to do is to have real conversations about the criminal justice system, about pushing books from directly impacted authors, such as myself, giving us the opportunity to have a voice to help come up with the solutions to fix our criminal justice system, to fix the issue of equality, to fix the issue of diversity. We saw a war on drugs that resulted in mass incarceration. We now need to see a war on literacy, a war on education, a war on poverty, and a war on childcare. My contact information is here. And I pray that you guys pick up the book, Redeeming Justice. I again want to thank the Association of Rural and Small Libraries for giving me the opportunity to speak. It is difficult sometimes to talk about difficult topics, but I would say it is even more difficult to deal with difficult things as a result of not having those difficult conversations. We need to talk more about these issues. I would love to have Redeeming Justice become a book of some type of yearly conversation with our kids, especially with our kids of color. These conversations need to be had. Someone asked me what was the scariest thing that I ever saw in prison. And I think that they thought that I was going to say an act of violence. One of the scariest things that I ever saw in prison was people not take advantage of the opportunity to learn, to educate themselves. And you know who helps with that? Libraries, associations like this. I'll close by saying this. I spent a lot of time as a kid in libraries. I can oftentimes remember that when librarians came up to me in the library, they were telling me to be quiet. So it is such a joy to be invited here by a bunch of librarians who is telling me to talk. Thank you guys. And I hope you guys enjoy Redeeming Justice. God bless you all.